Hello and welcome to Wine Wednesdays. I'm Freddy Arredondo, winemaker at Cave B Estate Winery, and behind the camera is Carrie Arredondo, our marketing and events manager. We are here with week 14 of our Wine Wednesday series at beautiful Lake Easton on the pass actually from the Seattle area to Eastern Washington, and we are just along the road here on a quick trip back from California that we took. Anyway, what is our question this week, Carrie?
Our question this week, Freddie, is one that we often get. I know you specifically get it, and sometimes in the tasting room we get it as well to talk about you. And the question is, if you could explain a little bit about your wine journey, how you got into winemaking, what you were doing before that led you there, and whatnot.
Great question. Yeah, and I do get that question all the time. And really, I got to wine by way of food. So I started cooking at 13 years old in my parents' Mexican restaurant in Southern California. From there, just kind of worked all over, went to culinary school in Arizona, and then eventually went to a culinary program in northern Italy, in Piemonte, Italy, which is where I met Carrie. And also, although I had been exposed to wines in restaurants before going to Italy, Italy is what really, truly sparked the interest in wines. In that program, we did take part in actually a harvest at a vineyard and got to see the winemaking process a little bit more up close. And I just really started falling in love with wine. After Italy, eventually Carrie and I did get married, and we were living in Seattle, and actually I was still working as a chef. We'd go over to Eastern Washington pretty often, and Carrie grew up in the vineyards, actually at Cave B. They started planting vineyards when she was 12, so she was very familiar with vineyards and the wine industry, but it was all kind of new to me. And we would just go over on weekends and that kind of thing. And then one trip on the way back to Seattle, I just looked at Carrie and I said, you know what, I think I want to change careers. She said, really, what do you want to do? I said, well, actually, I want to learn how to make wine. And it kind of went from there. And since then, we were moved to Walla Walla, did the winemaking program at the Walla Walla Institute for Enology and Viticulture, and have been at Cave B since 2006. Actually took winemaking over in 2008, and have just really, really enjoyed the journey. And really the philosophy that I put into wine is I just truly believe that wine is a food. I really think of it as a food, not something that you just consume for the effect. So that's in a nutshell, that's kind of like my wine journey.
Thank you, Freddie, for that. That is a wonderful wine journey. I'm glad to be a part of it. I know so many people watching are glad to be a part of it. Thank you. You're a cute little chipmunk on the tree trunk stump over there behind you. One last question, Freddie, before we go and hit the road back to the winery. Still have a little drive left. Can you explain what is your favorite part of winemaking?
Wow, that's a hard thing to narrow down to one thing. If I'm going to narrow it down to one thing, I would say the diversity of it. There isn't a single day that's the same as the previous. Every single day is different, with new challenges, with new adventures, and new stuff going on. And I just love that. And I love the diversity of the wines that I have the opportunity to make, because the mix of whites and reds and, aged in barrel, the tanks, just the different styles, and really working with so many varieties. That's really the best part, is just that variety.
And I guess that wasn't my last question, because as you said that, I thought of one last one. Having been born and raised in California, but now having lived up in Washington for over 20 years, or about 20 years, I would say, how would you explain the differences between the two, between California wines and Washington wines?
Yeah, I think there are great wines in California, and there are great wines in Washington. And if I were to, I don't know if there's an easy way to narrow it down. I'm just a fan of Washington wines more than California wines. Maybe it's because this is where I make wine, but I love them all. And I think that if you're going to narrow it down, I guess the Washington wines seem to have a little bit better acidic profile, and are really just phenomenal for food.
So back to the roots. All right. Thank you, Freddie. Thank you, everyone, for watching. We're going to hit the road. We'll see you at the winery.
See you next week.